Hello, thanks for joining Yin Yoga. Hope you are well. Yin Yoga, tonight we will focus on hips and back. That's mainly what Yin Yoga is about. The trunk area, and we're holding each stretch for between 3 and 5 minutes. This is too much. It should only really be about 4 or 5 out of 10. And then we stay in the poses a long time, which helps to work on the fascia, the bag that surrounds the muscles. So if the bag that surrounds the muscles gets tight, it means that we're all in a bag, if that makes sense. So we should feel freer in our bodies. Usually the next day we might notice we feel a bit taller, we feel a bit more energized and things like that. So we're going to start in the extended child pose. So for this one you might need some blocks. It doesn't matter if you haven't got blocks, you can use a rolled up blanket or rolled up mat, rolled up towels, anything really. So those, just the blocks or the blankets just come between your thighs and your calf, and then we stretch the fingertips forward as far as we can, and here we rest the head on a block or your mat. So the knees are about slightly wider than hip width, so about the width of your mat. Your bottom's on your heels or resting on the block or cushion. Then you're stretching the fingertips forward. And the hands are slightly wider than shoulder width. So we're holding in this extended child pose for 3 minutes. But first of all, we want to do a quick body scan. So we're transitioning from a busy day when our mind's perhaps been on work or friends, family. Now our mind should be on sensations that might be occurring in the body. So starting with your feet, take awareness to your feet. Notice all the toes. So the toes resting into the mat, the top of the ankles resting into the mat, and the shins, the calves, the knee joints, the top of the legs, so the thighs, hamstrings. Now take awareness into your back. And just breathe in and out of the lower back. So the breath is deep. Not just breathing into the chest, we're breathing into the tummy, into the side ribs, into the back ribs. And then as we exhale, everything releases. So about 6 more deep breaths, focusing on the body expanding as you inhale, and the body releasing as you exhale. So like a wave. And we press it into the hands, walk the hands back in and lift up slowly to tabletop. So from here we're on all fours. We're just going to come into our butterfly. So butterfly, again we can use some props, whatever we might have handy. So cushions or rolled up mats or blankets. I'll show you a few ways to do butterfly. So sitting on the block, if you have any back issues, or if you have any knee issues, if you sit cross-legged and your knees are up here, you do probably need a block or two. So butterfly, we have the soles of the feet together and the knees are out to the side. So it just helps to, we want to come forward in our butterfly. So if you're sitting on a block, that helps to tilt your pelvis forward. Also you could rest the blocks or cushions on your feet and then draw your head down to your block. So the target area for butterfly, depending on where you have your feet, if your feet are closer into your body, it will be your adductor muscles, the inner thigh. If your feet are further away, it will be probably your hamstrings and your lower back. So maybe have an experiment to see how it feels resting the head. Because if we kind of let the head just drop, sometimes it's quite a lot of pressure for the neck. So maybe try blocks or cushions to rest your head on. And we'll hold here for 5 minutes. So you can go through that body scan again, taking the awareness to the feet and the toes. The soles of the feet are together. Slowly working the awareness through the legs and then the hips. So settling the mind into the hips. We now imagine we're breathing energy. As we breathe in, we're breathing energy into the hips. As we breathe out, we're releasing tension from the hips. Tension, tightness, working on that connective tissue, the fascia. So making your breath as deep as you can. We want to breathe in and out through the nose. Even if you like to try and deepen your breath, you can try counting the inhale and counting your exhale. And aiming for a deeper, smoother, even breath. So if your inhale's 4, try to make your exhale 4 as well. So if your head was resting on a block, maybe lower the block, maybe rest now your head on your hands, or take the feet further away or closer in. Just adjust and experiment to what feels good for you.
Focusing on that breath into the hips and releasing tension out of the hips as you exhale. Another 6 deep, even breaths. And lifting up slowly out of butterfly, removing any blocks. Then we come into what we call the rebound, or the counterposes. So here sometimes we notice more when we're in the rebound because we've been in the pose for say 5 minutes, and it's quite a relief to feel ourselves able to move again. So we're taking our feet apart and knees apart. This is windshield wiper. We're taking our knees to one side. Notice take the knees down to the upper. So you might feel the stretch up the outer hip, and then keeping the movement dynamic in the counterposes. And a couple more each side. And back to the centre. So next it's everybody's unfavourite stretch or favourite stretch. So we're doing our ankle stretch and toe stretches. So first of all, we're on all fours. So we'll do the ankle stretch first. So on all fours, we take our hands back and we see if we can sit on our heels. So for some, this is awful. So just do what you can. We really need this mobility in our ankles. They're our foundation. So keep just walking back, and gradually we can gain a bit of flexibility. It doesn't happen overnight. This is a move we can do every day. It won't harm us. And then if you are able to sit on your heels, you can take the hands behind with the fingers facing forward, you can lean back, puff the chest up towards the ceiling. Then we can see if we can stretch our shins more on the top of the ankles by lifting the knees off the mat, bringing the elbows to the floor. So it might be too much for some of you, but if you tried it every day, to start from tabletop, walk the hands back, eventually we'll be able to do the ankle stretch. Okay, so that's the ankle stretch. So to stretch out the back of the legs, because the legs have been bent for a while, we do our counter pose, which is down dog. So turning our toes under, lifting the knees off the mat, chest through to the thighs. That's the key for down dog. With pressing into the hands, we're feeling a stretch in the chest and the shoulder area. Then we're lifting our hips up towards the ceiling. Then walking the dog. So one knee bends, the other leg is straight as we draw the heel to the floor. And then change sides. So heel, opposite heel to the floor, bend the opposite leg. About 3 or more, walking the dog or the puppy. If we keep the chest through to the thighs, we get that lovely stretch on the back of the calf and the hamstrings. And knees back to the mat. So for our toe stretch, we want to turn all the toes under. You can even reach behind to bring that little toe that wants to hide. So the little toe is pressing into the floor. So on all fours again, we walk back, and then again we see if we can sit on our heels. And then forward. So it's quite intense. We should really try to do this for 2 minutes every day. So I find this one harder, but I can feel quite a deep stretch in the toes, pads of the toes, the soles of the feet. So this helps to prevent things like Achilles and plantar fasciitis. So just see if you can hold maybe 6 deep breaths. Don't worry if you need to come forward a little bit. And then with relief, bringing the hands forward, and tops of the feet rest on the floor, maybe just shaking the feet up and down. And then we'll lift up into down dog again, so turning our toes under, lifting the knees off the mat, chest pushed through to the thighs, lift the hips up towards the ceiling. And again we can walk the dog by bending one knee, straightening the other leg. If we want a deeper stretch in the calf and the hamstring, we can say press our left heel into the floor and stretch the right leg up. Then keep drawing that chest through to the thighs, a nice deeper stretch for the calf, hamstring. And then bring the right leg down, heel into the floor, bend the left leg and stretch the left leg up, chest through to the thighs. And then left leg down to the floor, knees back to the floor. Okay, now coming on to our backs. So I'm going to do a few versions of Swan or Pigeon. So we start by lying on our back, then we'll come up to seated, and then we'll do the forward version. So 3 versions. If you like one version more than the other, say the lying down version is gentler, stay in the lying down version. Okay, so first of all, we're bringing our head down to the floor. Try and bring your chin towards your chest, and then we're drawing our right ankle over our left thigh. First of all, pushing our lower back into the floor, so try not to have an arch in your back. Try to have your back flat on the floor. Push the right knee away. That might be enough. If you want to go further, we lift the left foot off the floor. And then, again, we're pushing that right knee away. We can thread our hands through underneath the left knee, or we can bring the hands interlocked on top of the left shin. So quite a deep stretch here for our right hip, right glute, piriformis, and take awareness to that outer right hip. We can maybe take our knees side to side. So if we take the knees more over to the left, pushing that right knee away, we get a deeper stretch in your right glute. That's just an option. I just go through the poses and give you options, and then you decide how deep or intense you want to feel a stretch. You can draw the knee into the chest more, might give you a deeper stretch. Take the knee over to the left, deep stretch. If you have any knee issues, to protect the knee joint, you can flex the toes, and that helps to stabilise the muscles around the knee. So this is reclining pigeon or reclining swan, figure 4, thread the needle. So there's a few different names for each of the poses that we do. The key is to work with your own body and stay aware. There's more advanced postures, but you're more advanced practicing yoga if you can be aware. That's the key, just being aware. So now you can either stay in reclining swan or pigeon, or using the tummy muscles we can lift up to seated. So we would kind of draw the tummy in and lift up to seated. So here, the left leg could be out quite straight with your right ankle over your left thigh, and then eventually we're drawing that left foot so it's flat on the floor and the hands are behind with the fingertips out to the side. And then the more we draw the left foot in towards the body, the deeper the stretch in this seated pigeon or swan. We want to try and push our chest towards our right shin, push our right knee away, and again we can take the knee side to side or we can stay still. It's about 6 more breaths. Then we're coming into the forward proud swan and sleeping swan versions. If that one doesn't work when we try it, go back into reclining swan. So it can be problematic for the knee. So just releasing the right foot to the floor, and then drawing your left shin so it's in line with the front of the mat. So if another option would be deer. So this is deer with both legs at right angle. The swan version is where we take the right leg back and turn our right toes under, and we're trying to keep the hips level to the floor. So try not to be leaning over to your left. You can be like that. That's deer. Or swan. To get the deeper stretch in swan, both hips are level. If you want to, you can bring a block or a cushion underneath your left hip, your left glute. So proud swan is where we're pressing the hands into the floor or the knuckles and drawing the chest forward. So we've got maybe a little bit of a back bend, so compression of the back. So we can stay in proud swan, or we could come into sleeping swan, which is the elbows resting just underneath our shoulders. For one option, or stretching the hands forward so the arms are straight and their forehead resting down on the floor, which is a bit more intense. So be careful of your left knee here. If that's causing any twinging sensations, we want to go back into reclining swan. So whichever shape you're in, going to try and stay still and just focus on our deep breath for the next 2 minutes. So lifting out slowly, whichever version you're in, we'll come to tabletop, so forward. So from here, we would stretch out one leg and stretch out the back of the other leg. Down dog, maybe the heels up and down, walking the dog. Bringing the knees back to the mat. And then we're going through that sequence again of reclining swan, seated swan and forward, proud swan and sleeping swan. Okay, so lying on our backs again. Try not to have your head thrown back. You might need a block to rest the back of your head on. We just don't want that and then we're bringing our right ankle over our left thigh. Oh no, opposite way. Left ankle over right thigh, is it? Right ankle over left thigh, which the opposite way to which one we did before. And then we're pushing the knee away and drawing the right foot off the floor, threading the hands either underneath the right knee or on top of the right shin. Knees again side to side. We could draw that right knee in towards the chest Try not to lift your bottom and your hips off the floor too much. Try to keep the full of the back pressing into the floor. And again, you can flex the toes if you have any knee issues. We can keep hugging that right knee in towards the chest. Try to keep your left knee away. Now the sensation or the target stretch area is your left hip, your left glute, left piriformis. It's about 6 more breaths in this version. Then we're coming to the seated pigeon or swan. So here, drawing the tummy in, we're going to lift up. Pushing towards the chest to lift up, draw the tummy in and lift up. And then from here, you might need to start with that right leg extended first of all. Left ankle over the right thigh. Chest forward, and then we're walking that right heel in. And we're drawing our chest forward towards our left shin. So notice how that feels now in the left hip. We could even again take the knees side to side, be a little bit more dynamic maybe, or stay still. Seated swan. So it's your choice now to either go back into reclining swan or now proud swan and sleeping swan. So here the right shin is in line with the front of the mat. We're taking the left knee back. So if you want to try deer, that's another option where both legs are at a right angle-ish shape. Or now we're coming forward, extending the left toes and stretching your left leg back as much as you can. Here, to get the most out of proud swan, you want to not be leaning over to your right. You want the hips level. You might need to bring a block or something underneath your right glute and right hip. So good, stay for 6 breaths in proud swan, which is great for opening the chest area, great for strengthening your back. Going, you can stay in proud swan if you like, or we can go into sleeping swan. Bring our elbows forward, maybe stretch that left leg back a bit more. You can even stretch the hands forward, the hands are out straight, resting the forehead down to the floor. And we'll hold here for 2 minutes, staying as still as we can and focusing on as deep a breath as possible. Another 3 deep breaths. And lifting up slowly. And whichever shape you're in, we come back to tabletop. And either stretching out one leg at a time or lifting into the down dog again. Maybe walking the dog, maybe pressing one heel into the floor, lifting the opposite leg, which is a bit more yang-like. Bringing our knees back down to the floor. So from here we're going to try half butterfly or half straddle or half dragonfly. So as I said, the poses sometimes have different names. So for this, to help us, it's a forward fold. So to help us fold forward, might need to help elevate our hips. So have a block or a blanket or something to sit on. So we're sitting, so I'll show you the various options. So half butterfly, we start in butterfly and then we're extending the right leg out and bringing the left foot into the right thigh. Again, sit up tall first and then walk over. So this is half butterfly. If you want to try the half straddle or half dragonfly, you start with the feet out, with the feet as wide apart as possible. So really try to stretch the right leg away. So you can come forward, it's quite intense. And if you're like me, you probably won't be able to come forward very far. So you can stay in the full dragonfly or straddle, but for me, it's too hard. So the half one works better for me. So I would draw my left foot into my right thigh. Try and stretch out that right leg as much as you can, and you'll get trying to fold over that right leg. So the right foot can be flexed, or it just can be floppy, toes in, toes out, it doesn't really matter. Your hands can rest on your thigh, you can rest your elbows on your thigh, you can rest your hands in, you can rest your chin in your hands. It's just personal preference which works for you. So we're going to hold for 3 minutes. And here the target area, it might be your right hamstring, might be your lower back, might be your left hip. So just have a experiment and see and notice where you're feeling a stretch. It gets too intense for the back, you can come through the centre and rest the elbows on a block in the centre. You can rest the elbows either side of your right leg. You can stretch forward for the toes. So where we place our hands and our feet makes the difference in where we feel the intensity in these stretches.
6 breaths. Walk up slowly. For the counter pose, stretch out both legs. If we want to, we can lift our hips up towards the ceiling. Breathe in, lift up. Breathe out, lower down. Maybe 2 more times. Breathing in, lifting up. Breathing out, lowering. Breathing in, lifting up. And out to lower. And then opposite side for our half dragonfly or half butterfly. So soles of the feet together for the half butterfly, and then we're extending our left leg along the floor, or the dragonfly, the more intense one, is take the feet as far apart as possible, come forward maybe through the legs, through the centre. Maybe you've noticed you've gone a bit more flexible in doing half dragonfly or half butterfly, and then we can change, if we want to, drawing the right foot into the left leg, out to the side and folding over that left leg. So try to focus on deep breathing, on sensations as you breathe. Next 2 minutes, staying still if you can. Remember, you can adjust if you need to.
And lifting out slowly. Stretching out both legs. So we can do our inclined plane or just puff the chest up towards the ceiling. If we're doing inclined plane, we can have our legs straight or bent. Lifting the hips up, chest up towards the ceiling. With the legs bent, it's slightly easier. With the legs straight, it's much harder. And lowering down. Okay, so I just want to show you now 2 ways to do caterpillar. So we've got seated caterpillar or reclining caterpillar. So reclining caterpillar, your base of your spine on a block, which is elevate again to lift the feet up higher to relax the legs a bit more. So we'll again try to keep your chin towards your chest. We don't want the if you haven't got a belt or a scarf handy, you could take your hands, interlock your fingers and take them behind the hamstrings or behind the knees. The toes can be flexed or relaxed, it's up to you. So about 6 more breaths. Breathing in and out through into the abdomen, the side ribs, back ribs, chest. So we inhale, and then the exhale, body releases. Slowly, if you were using the belt, releasing the belt and drawing the knees into the chest, hooking the knees in. So sometimes here we feel the feet are all filled with energy. We've sent lots of energy up to the feet with the legs raised in the air. So take awareness to the feet and maybe wriggle the toes and wriggle the feet. We've unblocked energy, and the energy is now moving about the rest of the body. Okay, so that's reclining caterpillar. So next I'll show you seated caterpillar. So this is seated. So here again we can sit on a block which helps us fold forward more. It's not absolutely necessary. So the version I'll show you is where we start with our holding on to opposite elbow, with our chest resting on our thighs and our knees bent quite a lot. And our chin may be resting on our thighs as well. Keeping as contact as we can with that chest on the thighs, we're walking our heels away until maybe the elbows come to the floor. We're walking the heels away a bit more. Might want to rest your head on a blanket on your knees, or just something instead of resting your head or your chin on bony knees. And then we'll just hold for about 2 or 3 minutes. And this is really nice here to breathe deeply, and you'll feel your chest and your abdomen expand on your inhale and release on your exhale. Three more breaths. And release hold of the elbows. Draw the hands from underneath the legs. Press into the hands to lift up. Slowly removing the block. And then lying down. Slowly. So we might need to just release the back before we go into our final relaxation. So a couple of ways to release the back. So you could either hook one knee towards the chest and extend the other knee along the floor, or the other leg along the floor, and then draw the knee over to the opposite side. So if you're hugging your right knee towards the chest, you're extending the right knee over to the left. Or both knees are together and the feet are together, and you're taking your knees down to the left, extending the right hand out to the knees back, extend down to the right hand side, or Extend the right leg along the floor, left knee in towards the chest. Your left knee over to the right hand side. Extending the left hand out to the side, maybe looking over. Feeling a stretch in the chest and the hip, left glute.